Welcome in, everybody, to the First Call podcast. Jeremy Plonk and Jeff Siegel on a massive weekend. It's the first racing tour at Santa Anita. It's Santa Anita Handicap. We're going to wear big caps around actually at the big cap, Jeff. Maybe you can get yourself fitted for one of those. Looking forward to that. And at Gulfstream Park, we've got the Fountain of Youth Stakes where Triple Crown hopefuls are on display. And we'll see the 2-year-old champion from last year back in action with Forte. So these are exciting times.
Yeah, I don't need a big cap. I get the trophy. That's all I need. But the thing is, circa 1989. Seems like
it still plays. That's a brag you can throw the rest of your life, Jeff.
And I am martial law. But no, it's terrific cards at Gulfstream today, and I should say Saturday and Santa Anita. Many stakes, but they're competitive. Sometimes you get these stakes races and they're 3 to 5. And we got a couple of short price horses that probably we won't be able to beat. But the racing is terrific and the gambling is good, and can't wait for Saturday.
Let's look at the lineup for the stakes races. We're going to handicap here on the podcast 4 each. We do 8 every Friday for you on the First Call podcast. The Here Comes the Bride, the Gulfstream Park Mile, Devona Dale, and Fountain of Youth will be races 9, 10, 12, and 14 from Gulfstream Park. At Santa Anita, the 4 big stakes, race number 5, the Buena Vista, followed up by the San Felipe in race 6, the 11th, the Kilroe Mile, grade 1 there on the grass, and the 12th, the big one, the Santa Anita Handicap, grade 1, 600,000, big money on the line, Santa Anita Handicap. So huge day of racing. We're going to handicap those 8 races. There is much more going on across both properties. We've got live racing on CNBC from 4 to 6 p.m. with the national telecast. Look forward to that if you're watching from home. We've got the huge $3,000 ultimate betting challenge. The championship is coming up on Saturday. It's all the races from Gulfstream. It's all the races from Santa Anita. You can play on track. But if you're playing from home, ExpressBet is your exclusive home of the Ultimate Betting Championship. Be sure to get involved in that tournament. There's one more chance today for a $300 tournament on Friday as we record our podcast to qualify for the $3,000 tournament on Saturday. So try to get involved there. Play today in the feeder at Gulfstream Park, and then tomorrow, the big one, the Ultimate Betting Challenge, the Championship Handicapping Tournament, one of the biggest handicapping tournaments of the entire year coming up tomorrow. For those of you, I believe the National Handicapping Championship is amongst us as well. So some of those players in Las Vegas playing for some big money as well. Good luck to you. Many of them qualified from tournaments here with First and ExpressBet. So look forward to those folks having success in the National Handicapping Championship with the NTRA group in Las Vegas. Jeff, let's get handicapping on the Saturday program at Gulfstream Park. Let's start with the Here Comes the Bride Stakes. It's race number 9, a mile on the turf in this one, $200,000. As is the case with most of these stakes, we've got a big field to sort out.
Yeah, it's a tough race. It's a grass grab bag going a mile. I'm going to take a flyer on a 12-1 shot. 12-1 shots on form don't usually figure. They wouldn't be 12-1 if they did. But American Rocket, number 2, is an intriguing filly for me. American Feral filly trying grass for the first time. And here's the thing. After she broke her maiden first time out at Saratoga, which tells me she can run well fresh, Bill Mott tried her in 3 consecutive graded stakes, 2 of which were grade 1s. And she didn't run badly, closing 4th in the Spinaway, 4th in the Frizette, and then she ran poorly in the Goldenrod, and they stopped on her and gave her the winner off. But here's the thing. She's eligible to non-winners of 2, and you would think that would be the logical place to run her back, and yet Mott throws her in this race, and I don't think he's doing it because he couldn't find a race. I think he's doing it maybe. I'm hopeful that he thinks she's really good, and I think she could be as a 3-year-old, especially first time on the grass, with a good inside 2-hole post. The pace situation, the speed's drawn outside. She'll draft in if she breaks and get a great spot. 12-1 first time grass with a filly like that. Why not? I'm going to try her. Number 2, American Rocket. See if she can pull off an upset and get us started with a major play here in the 9th at Gulfstream Park.
And we've seen these Frank Fletcher-owned horses for Mott show up a lot at Oaklawn in stakes races. So there were places for her to go and run. Mm-hmm. The fact that she's here is pretty darn interesting. She'll have Cairo Consort to beat the winner of the Swedish Chant, the Ginger Brew, looking for her 3rd stakes win of the meet. But you've got Bill Mott in your corner. It's been a good winner at Gulfstream Park. Of course, Pegasus World Cup winner with Art Collector, came back and won the Holy Bull, ran 1-2 in the Holy Bull, and has both those horses in the Fountain of Youth later today. So it's already been a good meet for Mott. Let's see if he just can't add another layer for your handicapping there with American Wildcat. Race number 10 is the Gulfstream Park Mile. It's our Express Bet race of the week. I wrote this one up for Express Bet. You can get my detailed written analysis of this race in the email newsletter sent out each week by Express Bet and First Bet, or go to the blog sections of either website and you can get my write-up in here. Jeff, I understand Charge is the horse to beat in here. He's obviously the one. He's coming off a win in a Lounce Company. Is it Charge It, or are you going to try to dive somewhere else?
I really don't think that I'm going to be interested in trying to beat Charge It. You may have a different opinion, but this is a horse that came back running or in a 102 buyer number. I don't know if he was quite cranked up, but I think he's going to run better even in this race than he did in the allowance. You can see him breezing the outside. He's under a stout hold. He looks like a sharp, happy colt. This work was just about a little over a week ago, and he really wants to get it on. I think that allowance win probably woke him up a little bit. I mean, he went in 49. He could have gone in 46. And I think that this is a colt that obviously is, very effective at a one-turn mile. The last time he ran a one-turn mile, he won by 23 lengths in the Dwyer. So I think the trip is going to be fine. And obviously, they don't want to do too much with him in the morning here. They don't need to, but he wants to go out and win this workout. So I like Charge It. And he's 4 to 5 on the morning line. There's no real gamble, I don't think, unless you find horses in the 2 and the 3 hole to hook him up with, which is probably the way to handicap the race. But I'm just going to be watching Charge It, enjoying quality, and then seeing, how much of a 4-year-old he can be, because he could be among the best, if not the best, older horse this year if he continues on.
In that workout, he was with Emmanuel, who comes back on the turf on Saturday again. Really nice, becoming a nice older turf horse, Emmanuel, for Todd Fletcher. Look, I got a little probably greedy here, but I think Nitrous Channel has a chance, because I think if you're going to be charging, he's not going to fire, right? You got to hope he doesn't fire. And B, you're in front of him the whole way. I don't think somebody's going to close and run down Charge It. So Nitrous Channel to me is speed, sprint speed. Outside, I love the outside post position. You get Irad Ortiz. I think he's just going to go. He's going to try to take the race to him, see how far he can go. He looked good last time winning at 6.5. This is a one-turn mile. Nyquist, his sire, of course, won the Florida Derby over this track. There's no reason with a Fleet Alex on the bottom of the pedigree that the horse can't get a mile. And so I'm going to take a little shot with Nitrous Channel on the step up. But the exacta with Charge It is probably a strong way to go as well. I mean, I could see definitely those two in a cold exacta where Nitrous Channel has the lead. Charge It's just too good and pushes by him. But if Charge It doesn't fire, my only problem with Charge It at all, and there's really, you're picking it, a resume that's not pickable in a lot of spots. His best races have been followed up with disappointments, right? His big win, and then in the Florida Derby, disappointing when he wasn't able to push by there. And then his big win in the Dwyer put him on the shelf. He wasn't able to come back from that race. So he hasn't paired up 2 big efforts in a row. So he came back, he looked good in the return. Can that horse run 2 really good races, a couple weeks apart, 4 weeks apart, something like that? That's the only question mark. On talent, he stands out over the field, and I think he probably is the winner. But from a gambling standpoint, take a little shot maybe with Nitrous Channel, but certainly the Charge It, the Nitrous Channel would be a way to maybe approach this one. Let's go back to our stakes schedule and look at where we're headed next here at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. And again, remind you, big stakes day at Gulfstream, big stakes day at Santa Anita. Santa Anita's card is going to include a guaranteed payout, mandatory payout in the Rainbow Six, estimated pool around $3 million if it's not hit today on Friday, and we get that carryover in the Saturday. Gulfstream will pay out their Rainbow Six on Sunday with a mandatory payout. They're already over $1 million in the carryover at Gulfstream Park. Track officials expect $8 million of new money to be bet into the Rainbow Six on Sunday if it can carry to that point. It's got to get by 2 more days. We'll see if it does. The Devona Dale next up on the stakes schedule, Jeff, race number 12. These 3-year-old fillies in the Devona Dale working towards the Gulfstream Park Oaks on Florida Derby Day, but maybe bigger aspirations towards the Kentucky Oaks on the first Friday in May. Devona Dale for $200,000, grade 2. It's a one-turn mile like we just saw with the Gulfstream mile. Who do you like amongst these 3-year-old fillies?
Hard not to like Red Carpet Ready. She's undefeated in 3 starts. I gave $180,000 for her as a yearling at Saratoga, which is a lot of money for an Oscar performance.
Yeah.
Usually you're not going to spend that kind of money for a horse by a sire who was strictly a grass horse and who hadn't had any runners at the time. But Red Carpet Ready must be one heck of a great looking filly to bring that kind of money. And she has verified it in the afternoon, Jeremy.
Yes.
Won her debut by 10. How'd you like to say, hey, I got a horse I think can really run. Her name is Red Carpet Ready. She's running in a maiden race and she's going to be 35-1. I think I might have listened. Next time you got that kind of info, hey, pass it along a little bit. Anyway, she came back after that race and she was 7-1, won again. She wasn't even favored in her last start. She won that. Yeah. And I thought her win in the Forward Gal, Jeremy, was really good. I loved the way she pressed the pace and then kicked on with it. She's one of these fillies who's got speed and can give you a second move, and she did that in the Forward Gal.
Let's take a look.
At the top of the stretch, the opening half was 45-4. Luis Saez asking Red Carpet Ready to kick away, and she's doing just that with an eighth of a mile to go. Undervalued Asset is second, and Atomically is down the stand side, but with a 16th to go, Red Carpet Ready indeed. She's looking good. She wins by 3 in the end. Undervalued Asset was second. Atomically ran third.
And I'll tell you, Jeremy, her numbers have gone from 68 to 78 to 87. So she's getting better every race. She's moving up at a proper rate. Now she goes the 1-turn mile, which should be just as easy for her as 7/8, maybe even easier. And no, she's for real. I think she's a really, really good filly. I don't see any reason why she can't win the Devona Dale.
Couple points about her, that 36-1 in the debut, probably because of trainer Rusty Arnold, right? He's not a guy who gets horses right off the bat. You're thinking this is one that 2-3 starts in could be pretty good for Rusty. He doesn't win with debut runners hardly ever, especially sprinting on the dirt. That's just not his MO. So she's good. She overcame probably the preparation where she's not prepared to be that good at the start. Another thing is the fact that she was 36-1 in the debut is why you got 7-1 next time and why she still wasn't favored the next time. The public is hard-headed. When they bet horses to favorites, they stay with them time and time again. And when they get beat by a long shot, you will rarely see a horse win at 20-1 or more and come back and be favored or well bet the next time. Public is very much, we weren't wrong last time. There's a little bit of bitterness there. And it seems to trickle. This time she probably will go favored. Leave No Trace, an interesting one in here before we turn the page on the Devona Dale. Jeff, runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies last year from post 12 at 25-1. She ran a corker of a race for Phil Serpy last year. She makes her debut, but everything we've seen, from that race, Wonder Wheel got beat at Tampa on the comeback. Chop Chop's run terribly in a couple of races since that. These 2-year-old fillies from last year that were the high end that we thought on the scale just have not come back at 3. What do you make of Leave No Trace?
Well, she was running. Her resume looks great. She won the Spinaway. She was third in the Frisette. She was second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. But her speed figures are very average, actually. I think that group may not have been as good as we thought it was. And the numbers bear it out. So, I mean, for me, Leave No Trace was maybe in the right place at the right time and as a 2-year-old, but now she's going to have to step forward. I mean, on pure numbers, Red Carpet Ready is just faster, and she's got the recency. So I'll be curious, really, to see what Leave No Trace comes back and if she can step up, or maybe she just verifies the evidence, which may mean that maybe they're not that good. So we'll find out from Leave No Trace. The outside draw going a 1-turn mile is going to allow her to pick her spot and move when she wants to move. So that'll be okay. But Red Carpet Ready to me is surpassed her. So we'll see.
Good weekend for the 3-year-old fillies. If you're trying to find your Oaks filly, you've got this race at Gulfstream, and Santa Anita has the Santa Isabel this weekend as well. So a good one for the 3-year-old fillies. But it's about the 3-year-old colts this time of year. I think we're safe in saying, as everybody gears up towards the Triple Crown. The prep races, we got 50-point preps at Santa Anita and at Gulfstream. And that's where we're headed next at Gulfstream Park as the first racing tour rolls in for the Fountain of Youth Stakes. We've got a field of 10. Last year's 2-year-old champion Forte on the comeback. Blazing Sevens, winner of the Champagne last year, also on the comeback. And then you got some horses who have done some stuff at this meet, right? You've got Rocket Can, who won the Holy Bull Stakes last time out for Bill Mott, beating the stablemate Shadow Dragon. You've got General Jim stepping up off a win in the Swale. You've got a horse I'm interested in, Madge, the 7, coming off a big win on the career debut on the undercard for Pegasus World Cup Day, winning a maiden special in there. So a good-looking crew for this year's Fountain of Youth. And, Jeff, it's all about Forte in terms of starting your evaluation of this race. Last year's 2-year-old champ has a series of 6 workouts, and XBTV's caught most of them down at Palm Beach Downs. Here's the most recent. Tell us what you're seeing out of the champ.
I wasn't that crazy about his previous work, but this was much better. And, he's eager here. He's easy, he's breezing, going to meet the stablemate. This was good work. I still don't know if he's 100% cranked up. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's not, because why would you want him? This is just his first of 2 leading into the Derby. But, I mean, he's doing what he's asked. We know he can run well fresh because he won his debut by almost 8 lengths. He probably isn't the kind of colt you need to hone on or anything like that. And so I think he's ready enough to win, especially in a race like this where, other than Madge, who we don't know how good he might be, he certainly made a very favorable impression in his racing debut and has maybe much more to give. But other than that, and maybe Blazing Sevens, who on numbers is pretty good, but other than those 2, I'm not seeing much in here, quite frankly. I mean, I see some nice colts that have done well. I read where one speed figure system had the Holy Bull as the lowest rated Holy Bull in 30 years in terms of numbers and speed figures. So, I mean, I don't know how good those horses are. So I'm looking forward to see Forte run for Pletcher. I think he's, fit enough to win. And then Madge, the Gustavo Delgado colt, who looked so good breaking his maiden first time out, going 7/8. We'll see how good he might be. Other than that, I'm not seeing it. So I'm going to look at them both and then try to evaluate them after the race and then figure out, just where they belong on the pecking order among Derby possibilities.
Now, the key for the Holy Bull and the Fountain of Youth is the 1/16 distance at Gulfstream. So a short run to the first turn. They use the 16th pole finish line. It's only an 890-foot stretch when they use the whole thing at Gulfstream. It's a short stretch there. When they cut this up, we're looking at like 600 feet for the stretch run. A deep closer is kind of disadvantaged in this situation. So Forte isn't a deep closer, but he is going to be coming from the back of the pack. So in my estimation, if you're going to beat Forte, it's going to be with a speed horse, right? Mm-hmm. If this race goes to where a closer can outfinish everybody with the short stretch, that will be Forte, right? So I think if you're going to try to beat him, you try to do it in the front. That's why I went with Madge. I'm going to give him a shot on the front end. He's going to get a short run in the first turn, short stretch run, and maybe desperate enough to hold on. And this could be, a talented colt. I also like that he won on Pegasus World Cup Day, where you've got a lot of hullabaloo going on, a lot of hustle and bustle at the track. First time starter to do it on a day like that. I think that's an impressive, even though it was earlier in the card. That's going to set him up a little bit, I think, for a day like this, where you're going to have another big crowd at Gulfstream for the Fountain Youth. The paddock's going to be packed, and there's going to be a lot of excitement going on. So even though the horse only has the one career start, at least he came on Pegasus Day, which is going to simulate a little bit what he's going to see. But certainly early in the card on Pegasus Day, it's not going to be the same as the excitement for the Fountain of Youth when we get to the end of the day, race number 14. So he's going to have to grow up quickly, but I give Madge a chance to do it in there. And Jeff, you'll know this because an LA guy, but one of my favorite calls of all time in any NBA game. Lakers Celtics, Chick Hearn, Magic Johnson's just dribbling the ball around like as the clock's ticking down, and he's at the foul line. And Chick Hearn famously says, "You got to do something with it, Madge." That was his call before the junior skyhook that beat the Celtics there. So every time I see the name,
I remember
Madge,
that. Yeah, for sure.
And anytime beating the Celtics back then was good times too.
Yes, it always was. Hey, by the way, if you're in the paddock and you're talking to the jock, Castellano, you tell him, look, I don't want you grabbing this horse leaving the gate. You go. You go. Now, if Legacy Isle is inside, he's got speed, they're taking the blinkers off, maybe they'll send him, maybe they're not. But if they don't send him, I want you 2 in front before they hit the clubhouse turn. You know? And if he does that, then your scenario has a very good chance of playing out.
Yep, and that's what we're looking for. But yeah, do not try to rate him. Let's go for the money right now. Go for the Fountain of Youth. That's race number 14 on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Now, it's Big Cap Day at Santa Anita on Saturday, and Saturday's card includes that mandatory payout in the Rainbow Six. They're estimating $3 million in the pool there in new money if the Rainbow Six is not hit on Friday. So as we record our podcast, we're a day out from the big cap. It's Saturday, March 4th, and it's part of a big 12-race program. It'll be the 12th and final early start time coming up on Saturday at Santa Anita as well. I believe noon Pacific there. So be sure to catch Tom Quigley and company on their pregame show about an hour and 10 minutes before the races. So it's an early start in Southern California for Santa Anita's Big Cap Day. Jeff, let's look at the stakes races we're going to handicap here on our podcast. We've got 4 of them. The Buena Vista starting at race number 5. The San Felipe will be the 6th. And then the final 2 on the card, race 11, the Kilroe Mile, and the Big Cap in race number 12. Buena Vista is on the turf at a mile. Grade 2 here. These are the Distaffers, and this is a pretty familiar group of fillies. They've been around the block a few times, and at Santa Anita in that filly and mare turf division, you get some pretty good rivalries. How do you see it shaking out this time?
I just wonder whose turn is it, because they do take turns. The last time these fillies met, it was on over this course and distance, same course called the Megahertz. That was back in early February. They come back with another mile turf race. I guess they know it'll fill, so that's why they keep riding the same race back. But in that last race, Quattroel, who had been running good races without necessarily beating this quality of filly, she rallied against slow fractions, and they went the first half in 48, second half in 47, and she was essentially last at the top of the stretch. And the acceleration, the turn of foot that she showed, really was visually very impressive. And I wonder if she can do that again, because if she runs back to the Megahertz, this race figures to have a little bit more speed, but I don't think it matters. I think she can quicken, and I loved her last win, and I don't know why she couldn't win again.
Let's go to Frank Miramati's call of the Megahertz. You can see it for yourself.
School Dance in pursuit. Oakhurst will go widest of all. Closing remarks, looking for a seam. Nadet is down at the rail. They're a furlong from the finish. Baystorm, one silk stocking. Here's Quattroel in the red, absolutely motoring, finding a spot 1 from the rail, and Quattroel has taken the lead close to home. What a ride from Hector Barrios as Quattroel wins the Megahertz.
Jeff, she had to go 4/5 of a second, if not a full second faster than the rest of these, the final 1/8 of a mile, because she made up 4 and won by full length. I mean, that was a really impressive turn of foot that you mentioned.
It was. And again, she's an Irish-bred 5-year-old mare, but she's only had 14 starts. And here's another thing. She's won 4 races over the Santa Anita turf course. This is where she likes to be. And obviously doing well for Jeff Mullins, a couple of nice, or at least one nice easy breeze to kind of tick her over for this race. So if she can turn into a like, she's obviously going to be tough. I would also throw in, though, number 2 Macadamia for Phil D'Amato. I think she's developing now, another import, 5 years of age, but with only 10 starts. Got a prior win, looked good beating an allowance field last time out. And I think a mile might be really good for her. She was a miler in Brazil, was a Group 1 winner down there. So I think she's acclimating nicely. So use number 2 Macadamia somewhere on your ticket. And then the other one to throw in, well, I mean, Closing Remarks is probably going to run second or third. That's all I can tell you. She usually does, but she always looks like she's going to win at the end.
Right.
So you're probably going to want to have her just know that she's going to be there, but she'll be in the frame somewhere. But I mean, I'll throw her in maybe as a backup just because I like her. But I don't know. She doesn't really have the turn of foot that Quattrelli has, and so therefore she just might hit the board. But I mean, let's see if Quattrelli can run 2 alike. If she can win.
That race, the Buena Vista race number 5, is the first of 2 consecutive stakes. It'll be part of Saturday's Coast to Coast Pick 5 from Santa Anita. Also the 6th race we'll talk about in just a moment, being the San Felipe. Those are part of the sequence. Races 12, 13, and 14, the Devona Dale and the Fountain of Youth, the main races, as well as the McDermott in there. All stakes in the Coast to Coast Pick 5 this Saturday. So 3 stakes from Gulfstream, the 5th and 6th races, 2 stakes from Santa Anita. That brings us to race number 6 at Santa Anita, that leg 4 of the Coast to Coast Pick 5. And it is Triple Crown prep time on the West Coast, the San Felipe. The one thing about this race, Jeff, over the years that I've always noted as I do the Countdown to the Crown series, it is quite often in the San Felipe that we see a jaw-dropping performance, one that even overshadows the Santa Anita Derby sometimes. This race just seems to bring out at a mile to the 16th in March like this, This brings out a freakish performance often. So I will not be surprised if one of these dozen or so horses, or what do we got, 11 in here, one of this big field of 3-year-olds just runs off the screen. I just don't know which one it is at this point. This is a tough race from a handicapping standpoint.
Well, it could be Hijazi. I mean, they gave $3.5 million for him in the 2-year-old sale, and he's very, very fast. Now, my only concern with him, though, Jeremy, is even though I think he'll probably be most committed to the lead. In fact, I'm sure he will be, based on the way Richard Mandela has been training Go Rocket Ride, breaking him off behind horses and trying to let him finish, is whether Hijazi, even though he is by Bernardini, whether he really wants to run far. Now, a mile and 16th, I mean, you should be able to do that on one breath. We're not talking about a mile and a quarter here. I loved his maiden win. It was a confidence-building win, but it was a fast win. Worcester, who was second, is going to go to Dubai. Might be worth a gamble in the UAE Derby coming up, so keep that in mind. That's a pretty good colt that he beat. But his one prior 2-turn race in the American Pharoah, he was found wanting a distant third, a fading third. And he's not the kind of horse, Jeremy, that I think you want to grab. I mean, the temptation is to try to slow him down the first part. Right. And I don't think he wants that. So he's going to bust out there and go. I'm pretty sure that's the way Mike Smith will ride him. Then you got Go Rocket Ride, who's outside him, who'll probably try to stalk. And he's been trained to do that, but he's not happy doing that. He wants to get it on. The first time out they ran him, he ran him from the inside draw going short, and they sent him hard. They wanted to win with him, and he did. Now they're going to try to take him back. I don't know if that's in the cards for him. So I'm looking at a fast pace. And if that's the case, there's a couple colts in here that I think could wear them down. Number 3, Practical Move, who actually won the Los Al Futurity. I don't think he beat a whole lot that day, although the 4th horse in that race came back and won the 2,000 guineas in Dubai for whatever that's worth. But Practical Move has really trained well since that race. He's progressing nicely for Tim Yakteen, and he's learned to switch off and kick on with it, so he's going to be in the second flight. And then Skinner. It's number 10 on the program. Broke his maiden last time out with a 95 Byron number. Did it with his ears up, and he's come back and trained really well. He's the kind of colt that you don't want to do too much with him in the morning. You want him to relax. He's working in 101 here. Quite frankly, it looks like a 103 and change. He's just kind of getting over the ground nicely. Never really asked at all. Again, by himself. Didn't want too much with him after the highly rated win that he had February 12th. But there's a colt that I know can switch off, sit back, and make a run, just like he did in his maiden win. 3rd in the Del Mar Futurity last summer as a maiden behind Cave Rock and having a meltdown. That's a pretty good group, a couple of good, nice colts to be chasing home, going 7-8. So I think Skinner's got a chance. Maybe he's not as good as I think he is, but the gamble might be there. I'm going to try him. I'm also going to try Practical Move, and if the 2 speeds go wire to wire, then so be it. I wouldn't, but it's a good race. I like this race actually better than the Fountain of Youth. I think there's some more young quality young horses in this race than the other one.
We talked about Skinner last summer at Del Mar after his first couple starts. Like, okay, he's not going to win sprinting at Del Mar in the summer as a 2-year-old, but this Curlin colt is one to keep an eye on as we go longer and longer. And this could be his breakout day. Skinner, what kind of price do you think you'll get on him, Jeff? And what would you be happy with?
Well, I think he's 5-1 in the morning line, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. Maybe not. But I'd want more, I can tell you. But that's just, 6, 7 to 1, something like that. I don't know. I mean, there are horses in here who are going to take money. There's no question about that. I don't think he could possibly be any shorter than 4th choice. And I do think Hijazi will take money and Practical Move and even Mandela's horse, Go Rocket Ride. Those horses have to take money. And Skinner coming off a maiden win, and if you look at his company lines, he got beat 28 lengths in the American Pharoah. If you think he's good enough and you look at that line, you might say, maybe not, And I'm going to gamble that maybe that he is. But he's going to need help up front. And when he broke his maiden, he looked like he wanted to go, but he was smart enough not to go make a premature move. He was down the backstretch. He was kind of creeping up. Can I go? Can I go? No, not yet. Can I go? No, not yet. Into the quarter pole. When he asked him to go, So he's a smart colt. Right. And I don't think he'll be hard to rate here. And I think that the way Victor will probably ride him is to say, look, let those others bust out there. I'll do my work from the quarter pole to the wire, and we'll see how good this colt can be.
Let's go next to the Kilroe Mile. 1 mile on the grass, as you'd expect. Frank Kilroe Mile worth $500,000. Grade 1 here. And this is a race where I was playing around with some long shots, Jeff, and I thought the sprinter in here, Air Force Red, was kind of interesting. I think this horse is going to be fast early. I know Hong Kong Harry's got the great late kick, so if you're going to win this race, I think it's another one where if you're going closer, you go Hong Kong Harry. And if you're going to beat Harry, it's probably with a horse who he's never in front of, somebody who's leading the way. So I took a little shot in here with Air Force Red, probably better as a turf sprinter, but he's running a mile, and I think he's going to be interesting on the front end under Juan Hernandez. Who did you like here in the Kilroe?
Well, those are the two for sure. I mean, I picked Hong Kong Harry just because he's won 9 out of 13. He's perfect 3 for 3 at Santa Anita. A mile's a good distance. I don't know. He's trained well enough to be ready, and he won his debut, his U.S. debut. He can run well fresh. He also won his racing debut overseas. So, he can run well fresh. And this is a race. It's a grade 1 race at $500,000. You're not giving a horse like him a race at a $500,000 race. And Phil can get him ready. So I have a lot of respect for Hong Kong Harry, and I see where you're coming from on Air Force Red. But Hong Kong Harry, when we last saw him in the Seabiscuit, I mean, he can turn it on late, and Air Force Red might clear him. But if Air Force Red gets any pressure and the fractions are like 46, 46-1, something like that, it's going to give Hong Kong Harry a chance to do what he did in the Seabiscuit.
Here's Larry Colmus at Delmar with a call of that race.
Work to do still for Hong Kong Harry. He's 5 behind with 1 furlong to run. Master of Foxhounds to catch. Beyond Brilliant cutting into the gap. Hong Kong Harry on the far outside. The 3 of them will decide it. Here comes Hong Kong Harry. Beyond Brilliant. Hong Kong Harry gets up to win the Seabiscuit over Beyond Brilliant. Master of Foxhounds was next. The final time, 1 minute, 39.79 seconds.
So the Kilroe Mile will be race number 11 on the Big 12 race card Saturday that features the Santa Anita Handicap. That's race number 12, and that's where we're headed next in our handicapping, Jeff Siegel. 1.25 miles in the Big Cap, and like you said, you've got a Big Cap trophy, Martial Law, back in 1989. This has got to be a race near and dear to you.
It really is. I mean, it's near and dear to me because I saw my first Santa Anita Handicap in 1959, I believe it was. And I know exactly where I was sitting, way in the corner of the grandstand. I mean, I go back a ways with the Big Cap. And, of course, I mean, this is not my Big Cap or even my father's Big Cap. But I'm glad they've got 11 horses in the race. It's going to bring back memories of big fields, which they used to have. It is a handicap. But not really, because nobody's piling weight on anybody anymore. So, what it is, it's a wide open race, and Defunded is the morning line favorite at 7-2. And I enthusiastically backed Defunded in the Gold Cup last May here, 1.25 miles, and it was the spring version of the Big Cap. And I loved him that day. He was 5-1, and he got beat a length, finished second. And my impression after the race was he's a really good horse. He just can't go 1.25 miles. I mean, he had pristine conditions that day. And nothing he's done since then indicates to me that he really wants 1.25 miles. He can get it if he's the best horse. But I'm not sure he's the best horse here. So you can see him working with the horse that I like here. And that's the other Baffert, number 8, Hopper, who's on the inside. And Defunded's pulling a little bit here through the lane. Not too bad, but Hopper on the inside, he's just kind of galloping along. To me, he's got a better chance of going 1.25 miles than maybe Defunded does. Hopper ran in his comeback in the San Pasqual, January 28th, first start since last June. And I had watched him work like this, and he worked well, but I didn't get the impression he was fit at all. And I think Bob just put him in that race to get him fit. And despite all that, he finished second and beat only a length, going 1.125 miles. I know he's a lot fitter now than he was then. That work proves it. Blinkers going on. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. He wore them before and won on them before. Took them off. Right. Maybe he just didn't want him to get too keen in that last race because he was fresh.
Comeback race,
Took the blinkers off just to give him a race, and then now he's going to crack with them. He's outside Defunded, so I think maybe Defunded may show more speed, but Hopper doesn't need the lead. He can sit outside and go on with it. Training like he is, He's only had the 4 starts. His damn 1 going a mile and a quarter. There's no reason why Hopper won't get the trip. He's 8-1 in the morning line, Jeremy, and that's a gamble for me. I'm not that enamored with everybody else. I mean, there'll be play for Proxy, and he's all right. I'm not going to say he couldn't win.
Sure.
But I think going a mile and a quarter from where he's drawn, he's going to get a great trip, and I think you're going to see the best version of Hopper that you've ever seen, which hopefully is good enough to win at a price. Hopper for me in the big cap.
And you mentioned the handicap weights. There's not a huge spread here, but the funded is carrying 125, and he's given 5 to his stablemate. So if you like it a mile and a quarter Hopper, even better. Weight may not be your bag of tricks in handicapping, but 5 pounds over a mile and a quarter, you'll take it. You'd certainly rather not have it than have it. So another feather in the cap maybe of trying to attack Hopper. We got shippers from out of town, like you had mentioned, Proxy coming in, Warrant coming in for some big outfits. So it's good to see the national interest in the big cap, and we're getting a really good field assembled this year and getting that race back up to its proper lofty standards on the American Stakes marketplace. That's going to wrap up our handicapping for the 8 stakes races this weekend. Want to remind you again, on Saturday at Santa Anita, there's a mandatory payout in the Rainbow 6, carry over about 300 or 250, something like that probably. And then they're estimating maybe $3 million being bet into that pool. If the Rainbow 6 is not hit on Friday, you can expect that kind of send it in action on Saturday. As for Gulfstream Park, of course, it's Fountain of Youth Day on Saturday with the first racing tour, but Sunday they will give away the mandatory pot in the Rainbow 6 there. Already more than $1 million in the carryover at Gulfstream, so it's got to carry Friday and Saturday to get the Sunday's blockbuster. But if so, they're estimating a pool of $8 million in new money in the Rainbow 6 with that mandatory payout on Sunday. So a lot cooking. It's New Zealand Derby night. I've been told by Dustin Fabian of Express Bet a couple times this week. So get your bets in. There's a jockey named Opie riding the New Zealand Derby. I'm told he's a 2-time Derby winner, Jeff. So anybody named Opie's good enough for me. That's where I'm heading for New Zealand tonight. It's really not that late of a race either. I think it's like even before 11 p.m. Eastern. So you don't have to stay up too late for the New Zealand Derby, because I'm sure you got nothing else going on tonight, Jeff.
Hey, 11 o'clock Eastern, you say? It's prime time here in California. I'll tune it in if I can remember, yeah. No, it's good. It's a good time of the year for sure. I mentioned March Madness. This is March Madness for thoroughbred racing too. Lots going on in the month of March for horse racing fans, especially on the Derby Trail. Good gambling and lots of opportunities out there for everybody. So looking forward to a great weekend of racing, and specifically on Saturday at Gulfstream Park in Santa Anita.
For more handicapping, be sure to go to the blog section at expressbet.com and at news.first.com. Jeff, John White, all of our handicappers across the First family sending it in this weekend to help you have a big first racing tour on Saturday. On behalf of everybody with First Bet and Express Bet, my partner Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Tuesday when we come back to make it all official on It's Official. Good luck, everybody.